Go ahead.
All right, ladies, happy Saturday. What an awesome group. Sometimes I talk about how I love my family, and I am one of 6 kids. We have a big family, and I love hanging out with them. But to be honest, sometimes I like hanging out with a bunch of random investors, strangers, because they get my head. You know what I mean? Like they get what I talk about. Whereas sometimes when you go to like Christmas dinner, it's like, oh yeah, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. And they're like, really? But like here is a safe space that you can like talk about your dreams and your goals and make them a reality instead of, hey, if any of my family's on, I love you. And let's talk on tomorrow at Sunday dinner. Anyways, so super cool to be on here. Hopefully, can you guys see as I switch? Let's see. It's not letting me. There we go. Okay. So here's my background a little bit. Okay. So I got my real estate license in 2012. I'm actually the daughter of house flippers. My parents, when they retired, they started flipping houses in Newport Beach, California. That's where I'm originally from, but now I live in North Carolina. I moved here about a decade ago, got my real estate license in 2012 and started investing. But I'm going to give you a little bit more of that story in just a second. But I've done rehabs and I've done new construction and notes, long terms and short terms and coaching, and love that. But the real me, like not the headshot version, but the real me is a mother of 5 amazing kids. And they are my life. They are my world. You might even see one since it's Saturday, guys. So stay tuned. We'll hope not, but so they are my life and I love them so much. But the real me is very focused on being a mom. And my oldest is 11 years old, and he'd probably want me to say 12 next week. But I have young kids at home. And so I'm going to talk about a different type of real estate investing that you can do with young kids, even if you have to homeschool them right now with crazy COVID. So this is why I BMD. This is why, how you're always hearing, what is your why? What is your why? And for me, that's my why. But as we go through this, I want you to think about your why. What is your real goal? What got you into real estate investing? Why are you spending Saturday listening to me? What is it that drives you every single day to want to do this? And for me, I was in a sales job. My husband was in a sales job. We were working really hard. Our number 4 was 6 weeks old when number 3, they have names, but numbers are sometimes easier. When number 3 was diagnosed with brain cancer. And it was on his 2nd birthday. And within 24 hours, they think he actually even had cancer when he was in the womb. And so this cancer was in every crevice of his brain. And so within 24 hours, they rushed him into brain surgery. And to be honest, I had my real estate license at the time, and it was kind of like a little bit of an agent, but I also had a sales job and was just trying to, bring in the extra money. And, but I still hadn't like jumped into real estate investing. And when the cancer hit, all of a sudden it was like, what am I doing with my life? Like what? I wake up, I work my butt off, and then I maybe have dinner with the kids, maybe, but then maybe they're being rushed to some other activity. And then we maybe get a kiss goodnight before we go to bed. And it was like, I saw my kids growing up and I was like, this is not the plan. Like there's got to be a higher plan than to just live this life, right? And I'm sure each of you have kind of thought that at some point in your life. If not, kudos to you. But that's what got me to leave corporate America, to leave the stresses of life behind, and started doing real estate investing. I remember sitting at the breakfast table when we were going through radiation treatments with my son, and I said to my husband, I just can't sit around and wait for him to die anymore. And I said, what if we did something crazy? What if we actually did the things we talk about doing? Like, what a shocking idea, right? Like, what if we've talked about flipping houses. We've talked about becoming real estate investors for a decade now. And what if I actually started doing that? Like, you stay in your safe job for now, but what if I started exploring that world that we've always talked about? So long story short, it was during cancer treatments. And thank goodness for an amazing husband that was like, well, we kind of have a lot on our plate right now. Are you sure you want to do this? And I was like, yes, like I've got to have a purpose, because I really felt like between doctor's appointments, I had been laid off from my other job because they wanted me to have more time with my family. which I kind of wanted the money to pay for more doctor's appointments, but whatever, not my choice. So I was like, what was I going to do next? And I was like, this is some higher power. I felt like was telling me it's time to get your life on the path that you actually want it to be on. And so for me, this was the life changer that got me to get into real estate investing. Now, if you ever meet one of my kids, we have a mantra. Every family needs a mantra, right? And so sometimes when my kids are having a hard day or they're going through something, I'll either shout it, or in tender moments, I'll just say, Hawks do. And they all will answer hard things, because I want my kids to understand that we do hard things. Like, that's a part of what makes us who we are. And at one point I had people asking, oh man, do you just wake up and think, why me? Like, why is this all going on? When I had lost my job, I had a 3-month-old baby. I had my other baby going through brain cancer treatments. And, it was a hard phase of life, but Hawks do hard things. And I know you do hard things too. And so instead of thinking, why me? Why me? I like to encourage people to say, why not you? Why not me? Because some higher power, whatever that is for you, some higher power believes in you and has a grander plan than we can ever imagine, and needs you to become the person that you have the potential to be. And so when hard things arise, think, why not me? And take it as like a badge of honor, right? Why not me to do something amazing? Why not me to work through these trials? And also, I like to look at it the other way too. Sometimes we might see on Facebook or social media of people doing great things. It's like, oh man, I wish I could do that. Instead of thinking that, think, why not me to do that? Why not me to set big goals and then work step at a time to actually do them? Okay. So that's when I actually started our first real estate investing company, which was focused on wholesaling and rehabbing. Okay, that was my main focus. But I realized soon, as I was starting to do the things that Jen was talking about, like, that was an awesome unicorn project. Like, that was a great example. But I was so worried with this balance, just like I had been when I was in corporate America. But as I got into real estate investing and flipping houses, I was better, but I was so worried that I was going to lose that balance of missing out on my kids' lives, and whatever that why is for you. Now, as we were flipping houses, we did great. Like, we loved it. We won awards, and we were making great money. And then all of a sudden, 2017 hit, guys. 2017, I don't know why. I do know why. I think for me, I don't want to offend anybody, but whatever that higher power is for you, I think the Lord had a different path for me, and he had to force me that way. So in this year, we had a bunch of crummy things happen. We had 2, my friends, not just one, but 2 on 20 miles apart, different projects we had going on. We had 2 different drive-by shootings happen, one on our driveway, one a block away. Now, I'm like not in the hood, guys. Like, I am on the outskirts, but they were just 2 random shootings the exact same month, 20 miles apart, within a block of 2 of my properties. By the way, the one that happened on the driveway, that was actually set. We had already taken pictures and had listed, and it hadn't gone live yet. So it was supposed to go live that week when there was a drive-by shooting. And if you've worked with drive-by shootings, you know that within days, hours, minutes, a big memorial starts. It's not like, oh, let's clean it up and let's move on with life. A big memorial grew for the next 5 weeks, and just grew and grew right there on our driveway of our new property. And that was supposed to hit the market that week. So just different things like that. But then we got in a bad, nasty lawsuit. It was like, we had worked on 11 projects with this contractor and was like a brother, and nasty divorce with my contractor, and thousands and thousands of dollars of legal fees. And it was just nasty. Okay. So anyway, so this was like, this isn't fun anymore. This is not the Chip and Joanna lifestyle I signed up for, right? This is not what Robert Kiyosaki planned out for me, right? So all those things, it was like this, I lost my excitement for it. And I'll share another quick story, is that at one point we had a bunch of different new construction projects going on. And it was when we got tied up in this legal thing. And we had thought that these properties were going to be on the market by July. And it got tied up in a lawsuit. So there were 6 projects, and it was about $5 million worth. It was just over $4 million worth of leveraged money that I was literally throwing up. I was literally in a ball in my closet sobbing because I was having nightmares of my lenders. I was having nightmares that I wasn't going to be able to pay back my lenders because we thought we were going to sell them in July. And all of a sudden it was December, you guys, and we were about to get them back, but it was December, like not the greatest time to put 6 properties on when you thought they were going to be done June, July. So I digress, but so I was so sick. I was nauseous. One of my lenders actually, in the last session, you talked about hard money versus private lenders. I love working with private lenders. But the problem with that is that when my attorney said, maybe you should declare bankruptcy, I was like, no, I don't even, some of these people I don't know personally, but they trust me. And I know that one of my lenders was using their deceased husband's 9/11 memorial. Like, I was nauseous at the thought that I might not be able to pay this sweet family back after trusting me with these sacred funds. And so it was December, and I was taking my oldest to the bus stop in December, and he understands the magic of Christmas. But I jokingly said, hey, I haven't seen your letter to Santa. What do you want this year? And he said, oh, Mom, it's fine. And I said, no, what do you want for Christmas? And he said, Mom, it's okay. And I said, no, tell me. And he said, I just want one thing, Mom. I just want you to be able to sell one of your houses. And you guys, whether you're mom or not, I hope you understand that weighs heavy. So I said, have a good day at school. And I went home and I just bawled. And I just bawled and sobbed. And he was like, how did I do this to my kids? How did I do this to my family, that they see me crying? They see me yelling at my contractor on the phone. They know that I'm not the mom that I want to be right now, even though I thought I was going to be living my dream of being a real estate investor and of flipping houses. And you guys, the most amazing thing happened. On Christmas Eve, we like to play sports. When you give birth to a basketball team, you get to do that. And so we were playing football with my 5 kids, my husband, and it was just a beautiful day in North Carolina when I got a text and I started crying. And my sweet oldest, who had just asked for that one thing for Christmas, he came to me and he said, Mom, is it? And he said the name of my contractor that I have apparently named his name too many times. And so he knew who that was, but I won't name him here. And I said, no, honey, it's not. You got your Christmas wish. We just sold one of our houses. And you guys, we had prayed and fasted as a family for months and months and months. And this finally happened. And it was a Christmas miracle. It was fabulous. And I started crying. He started crying. He came and he jumped on me. And the rest of my kids were like, what's going on? And they came and jumped on us and we celebrated and it was wonderful. And we went and got sparkling cider and we shook it up just like when you win the World Series. And we were so excited. At the beginning, when I had started flipping houses, I was selling them just like Jen had said, multiple offers in the first weekend and was making great money. But at this time, I was done and I was ready for a break. Now, I know people like Jen and other people who are still rocking this life of flipping houses, and that's awesome. But for me, it was taking over my life and it was not providing the lifestyle I wanted. I felt like for so long, for that decade, I had been talking to my husband about someday we're going to start real estate investing. Someday we're going to start flipping houses and it's going to be so great. And the view from the top of the mountain is going to be amazing. And then all of a sudden that year hit and I felt like it was like this avalanche that, like I said, I could barely get out of bed at this point. When my son had cancer, I was like, Hawks do hard things. We got this. But when all of a sudden it was like millions of dollars in debt and I'm looking at declaring bankruptcy and having to get rid of my house that I love, all of a sudden I was like, this is terrible. I felt like I was in an avalanche and depression, darkness, right? I felt like I was just boof, right? And so at that point, my sweet husband took me and he said, let's talk about what our dream day is. And we sat down and we were like, okay, our goal is like, we're going to get back on the mat. Like, what are we going to do now that like, do we even want to flip houses anymore? I don't know. And so we went through and we were like, we want to travel with our kids. We want to, spend more than 3 hours a day with our kids. We want to live off of 100% passive income. We want to be able to travel at any time. Now, at the time, that sounded crazy, you guys. I was literally millions of dollars in debt. At the time, it was crazy. But as we thought about it, we're like, you know what? This is something that Jen knows that I live strongly by. I wanted to build a life that I didn't need a vacation from. And that was not it. 2017 was not it, my friends. Different stream of income other than flipping houses. Someday I might go back to flipping houses, but I decided that was not my path. So all of a sudden I realized while the avalanche was on me that I had 3 options. I could go back down to the bottom and I could just figure out what was next. But then I realized I was so worried that it would take me a decade to get back on that mountain or any other mountain because it was so dark. I was so scared at that point. So I knew if I went down, like, I don't know, that's the safe thing to do, but I could go and back up to the top of the mountain, start winning awards and start doing that. But was that really the view I wanted? But then all of a sudden I realized that the avalanche had kind of formed a bridge for me. And it had formed this bridge that I call Airbnb or short-term rentals. Because as I took the things I had learned in real estate, and then I went over to the next mountain, I could see all of these other things that started opening up to me that I would have never seen if I would have just been flipping houses and wholesaling. But by this, it forced me to start looking at all the awesome things that real estate investors have at their fingertips. But also, I got to start writing books, which I love and it had always been a dream. I got to start getting paid to be on stages, which, hey, that's cool. I like to share what I love and might as well get paid to do it. So I started getting these other requests and seeing this valley of mountains that I would have never seen if I was just looking at the mountain that I thought was my dream mountain. So sorry that that's a big backstory, but I really want you to understand that I get asked this all the time. What's the difference between rehabbing and short-term rentals? And hopefully a little bit of my backstory has helped illustrate a little bit of that. Now, rehabbing was great for a time. It was great. And if you're rocking that, then awesome. Congratulations. Now with rehabbing, you get sporadic big checks. Okay. In Jen's case, with that unicorn, big checks within like 5 days or like a month, right? But with short-term rentals, it's a different mindset. It's a whole different beast. Okay. This is setting up, you got to put up some upfront costs, but then you get recurring, consistent income. Okay. Now with the sporadic big checks, you're hoping that you did the right ARV, right? You're hoping you did the right projections and you're hoping that you're going to make 10,000, 50,000, whatever that range is for you. Right. And you're going to just work. And you get that big check at the end. And I don't know what you do when you get those big checks, but I always went out for a steak dinner and dessert. I splurged on a dessert every time I sold a house. And one of our ones that we had been flipping and we always celebrated, right? And then I'd go to sleep. And the next day it's like, okay, what else is in the pipeline? Okay. And hopefully you're working on multiple projects at once, right? But as soon as you sell it, it's off to, got to make sure that your pipeline is constantly coming. Whereas with short-term rentals, you find the property, and I hope to have a property for 5 years, 10 years, or longer once I get an Airbnb property. No matter which way I'm running my Airbnb, that's my goal. Okay. Now the other thing with the difference between rehabbing and short-term rentals is that I kind of talked about that. When you set up an Airbnb, it's going to take, for me, I highly recommend setting up your Airbnb for 1 week. You get 1 week. It's kind of like the 5-day flip. You get 5 days to get your Airbnb up and running and starting to be profitable. Okay. But then after that, you're in maintenance. I loved that I went from Saturday mornings being at Home Depot and walking projects and then catching the end of my kids' soccer games. Now I get to be at the soccer games and I get to coach the soccer games, because once you set up an Airbnb, everything else is going to be from your phone. My goal is that I only go to my properties 2 times a year. 2 times a year. And if you have a destination, like if you have a destination Airbnb, you can train somebody else to do that. But I personally, I kind of like to see my properties. Because I'm a coach, I like to still be involved in some of those aspects. So I like to visit the properties every once in a while. So we've trained somebody, but I like to go every once in a while to see what's going on and see how things are looking. Okay. But it's very low key. And then it's just going to keep on sending you, it's going to keep on depositing money in your bank account for months and months and months and months. Okay. Now, like I talked about, with rehabbing, you're looking at big debt and loans of anywhere from $150,000 to, depending on your size of your project, to $1 million, right? Whereas with short-term rentals, it's you pay your startup costs up front, and then you have low maintenance costs after that. To set up a property, depending on where you are, what level you're doing, I say it's anywhere from $1,000 to $15,000, okay? Now, there's lots of things that go into making a successful Airbnb. All right. Now, I talked earlier about how I felt like the Lord was putting me on a different path. And this was kind of the path that I had to learn of how to set up my first Airbnb and then scale my Airbnb business. Now, because I was so desperate at the time, we had set up our dream day and I was like, I'm going all in on Airbnb. And so I opened my first 4 within 3 months and quickly had to figure out a system so that I could add more and more. Okay. So we're not going to be able to talk about everything today. But that's okay. You have this access to knowledge. At the end, I'll give you a freebie. So definitely stick around to the end. So there's lots of access to different people to help you along this path, which I highly recommend. I've heard some of the other speakers and just loved the things they had to say. So there's definitely coaches out there to help you through it if you're interested. Just a reminder that your success is up to you. I say people, if you read my book, that doesn't guarantee success. If you take my course, that doesn't guarantee success. Whatever it is, you still have to decide that you're going to be the superhero. You have to step up and actually take action, to stop dreaming about it and actually start doing. Okay. So I know that you can do it. It's going to be an awesome ride, but you can do it. I also sometimes forget to mention, so I'm so glad I have this picture in, that my AJ is doing awesome. You guys, it has been 6.5 years and he is our miracle that we enjoy and laugh at because he's hilarious. Oh, thank you. Whoever dropped the heart. I just love you. So he is doing awesome and we're so grateful every day, every minute we get to hang out with him because he's a blast. Okay, so now I heard this asked the other day, and so it's something that needs to be addressed. When I say Airbnb, that's kind of like saying Kleenex. It's kind of like saying chapstick, right? It just means short-term rental. It just means STR. That could mean Airbnb, VRBO, HomeAway, Bookings.com. It could mean any short-term rental. Okay, so instead of an annual lease of a year, it could be 6 months. It could be 3 days. It could be whatever it is. Okay, so when I say Airbnb, it's interchangeable with short-term rentals usually. Okay. So yeah, it's just become kind of the brand we use for that. Now, some people are going to ask me after seeing that slide, well, how do I know? Where do I list my property? And the answer is that it depends on your location. It depends on the size of your property. How far in advance you want to leave your calendar open. In just a little bit, we're going to talk about using other people's property. And if you're using other people's property, you don't want to leave your calendar open for a year in advance. You just want it to be 3 months in advance. So you're going to be looking more at the Airbnb type listing platforms instead of the VRBOs, where VRBOs often they'll schedule 8 months, 10 months in advance. Okay. So it depends on your target market. If your target market is next to hospitals, then there are certain websites where you draw in traveling nurses. If you're really close to the airport, there are certain websites that draw in flight attendants. Okay. Or even airlines. Okay. So, depending on where you are, if you are out in the country somewhere, then it might be a VRBO. Okay. So there's lots of different indicators that go into choosing which platforms to be on, and you can start on multiple, but you have to make sure that you have a way to sync them, because you don't want to have yourself on all those different platforms without syncing them. Okay. And then eventually you want to get on your own booking site, your own Marriott.com, MeilaniHock.com, whatever. So you have your own booking site where you can direct return clients and guests directly to your website, so that they don't have to worry about booking fees. If I'm approaching a corporation and we want to be their corporate housing solution, and we have 15 properties in the area. Here's our website. You can sign up any of those. Here's your promo code directly for your corporation. And so that's an option as well. Okay. Let's see. When I say Airbnb, what do you picture? Okay. Because I want to make sure that you understand that there are lots of different options out there. Okay. This is a romantic bus in the forest, dome in the forest, clock tower guest suite, secluded in town treehouse, dog bark park inn. And look at this, you guys, RVs. And this is a beautiful view in Los Angeles, right? But $236 a night for an Airstream. Okay. And there are some places that you can rent a hammock. A hammock, you don't even have a toilet, you guys, for $25 a night. How crazy is that? So, whatever you think about Airbnb and whatever you're thinking, okay, well, is there any that type in my area? I want you to get rid of the blinders. Okay. I want you to be creative. If you have land, we have one of our properties that we rented out as parking spots because we have a few acres of land. And so there are websites that you can rent parking spots for boats and trailers and RVs. You can rent out parking spots. So just be creative. Okay. So don't just think, oh, well, I don't have a Florida beach house. That's not just what Airbnbs are, okay? In fact, all of my properties, not one of them, you can't see a palm tree in sight of any of my properties because vacation rentals aren't my mainstream. Now, we talk about getting into more vacation rentals, but man, during COVID, I was sure glad I was in a more steady type of Airbnb investment. Whereas some of my students have just the vacation rentals, only the vacation rentals, and then that really took a hit. I have one of my good dear friends who has an amazing house that they've flipped and they turned it into an Airbnb and they did every room. It's like 10 minutes from Disney World and every room is a different Star Wars galaxy. Oh my gosh, you guys, it was such a great interview. She was on my podcast and you have to check it out on the YouTube because on the YouTube. What am I? My mom? On the YouTube because it has the pictures of these different rooms. And she did this amazing flip to turn into like a Star Wars galaxy house. And she also, this isn't in my presentation. Oh gosh. There she also adds in Airbnb experiences that you can do on Airbnb, which Darth Vader can pick you up in a limousine from the airport. Like how awesome is that, right? Like you can be so creative with Airbnb and your upsells of $100 or whatever it is. But people that are willing to do that whole adventure thing, they get into it and they love it, right? So really be creative of what you picture that as, okay? Now, we're going to go through the 3 different types of Airbnb hosting. I heard this asked the other day and it was a quick answer. So I'm just going to dive into this real quick. Okay. Now, if the only times that my personal preference, like I listen to each of the other speakers and I've talked to each of those speakers and they are awesome, right? But we all do it a little bit different. Okay. In my opinion, I do not like to do ownership because guys, I have an issue. I have commitment issues. I have commitment issues because I do not want to get stuck. I have risk issues. After 2017, I'm like, I don't want to go buy a house and then have it be a crummy Airbnb. Okay. So I'll get into that a little bit more in just a second. But the only times I recommend doing ownership is if you already have the place. Maybe it's maybe a room in your house. Maybe it's maybe you have a vacation home. Maybe you have a garage with a room above it. Maybe you have a lake house that you want to start earning money on. Maybe you have a traditional long-term rental that you've been doing year at a time, and then you want to switch it over. This is one thing I heard Amanda say. Now, I love Amanda. When she's not living in Cabo, she usually lives here in Raleigh with us and love her. But she talked about how she doesn't like to convert a long-term rental over to a short-term rental. And I disagree on that because there are people that want Airbnb at every price level. And so you don't just need to do luxury, although I do recommend new furniture, but you can turn a cute little cozy older place into a fabulous Airbnb and make amazing money. So when we first started, we turned our traditional long-term rentals into short-term rentals also. Okay. Now, the other time to do ownership is if you already have an Airbnb in a neighborhood, then I send out yellow letters using that stuff that you've learned from wholesaling and rehabbing. I start sending yellow letters. I want to rent your house. I want to buy your house to those neighborhoods that I already know this is an awesome Airbnb neighborhood. Okay. So once you've tested it, then, okay, then you can buy it in there. Because then you know the going rate, you know the occupancy that you're going to get, you know the neighborhood, you know the HOA if there is one. Okay, so those are the times to use the ownership model. Now, as for other people's property, there are two different types. There's arbitrage and there's co-hosting. Okay, why would you want to use other people's property? First off is no big down payment. When I first started, remember, I was millions in debt. Okay, so I didn't have any money to go out and buy 4 properties in 3 months, but I knew I wanted to get that income and start it coming in, right? So it made it so that I don't have to, if you're using other people's properties, you don't have to put it down a deposit. You could just start using their properties, right? Also, I love this one. This goes back to my commitment issues, is that this gives you a chance to test out the property. Okay. I like to say it's kind of like you're dating the property. You're finding out its quirks, finding out if you really want to be together for 10 years, forever, whatever. Okay. So you're gonna date the property before you marry it. You're also, it gives you a chance because you're dating this landlord also before you make longer term commitments. Okay. So sometimes I usually try to get a 6-month contract, which is super easy to do in this month. December, January, February is pretty easy to get a 6-month. Okay. November. Okay. So we're just leaving out of the 6-month phase that I really try to get 6-month leases. Cause then I date it and then I'm like, oh yeah, then I'll sign a 2-year after that. Okay. And keep my rate where it is. But I like to test it. I like to date it before I commit to marrying it. Okay. Let's see. Like we talked about testing all different parts of it. We're proving the rates but we're also looking at any major fixes on the property. Okay. Because guys, as soon as I've used other people's properties, after 4 months, 6 months, 8 months, as soon as I know that this is a good property and I've saved up my big down payment, then I offer to buy the property. But this has given me a chance to make sure the HVAC works, to make sure the roof isn't leaking, to make sure it doesn't have a random squeak at 10 p.m. every night, whatever it is, whatever random quirk while you're dating this property that you can figure it out and then you can offer to buy it, right? Now, you don't always have to do that, but whenever you're ready to, meaning sometimes, okay, so like last month, all of a sudden there was leaks in one of our Airbnbs. Come to find out, there was a root growing through the property. So every time you turned on the water, all of the toilets and everything overflowed. Nasty, right? And it was one of those times that I was like, I'm not sad that I don't own a property right now. I was very happy to call the landlord and be like, hey, can you come fix the plumbing? Hey, can you come fix the air conditioning? Whatever it is. Sometimes it's very nice to just be able to do that. So if that's your business plan, rock on. But if there's a property that's doing really well and it's like, I could get a mortgage that's only this amount, and it makes sense to you, then definitely keep that in the back of your head. Okay. Let's now compare. Okay. So both of these are going to start out the same. There's a house, there's Mr. Landlord that puts a sign out for rent. And here I coming to respond to what he's asking, right? That's a difference with wholesaling and rehabbing. It was really hard for me in my area. I would definitely be doing a lot of yellow letters. I'd be doing bandit signs. I'd be doing a lot of knocking doors even. Every once in a while we'd find something that was MLS or FSBO, but for the most part, it was me going and begging and trying to lowball, right? Whereas with this, I'm saying, I want to pay you the full amount of what you are asking. I do. And in fact, I love your property so much, and it's perfect for me and my gaggle of children that, well, I don't really say that, but it's perfect for, it's exactly what I've been looking for. And you know what? I am going to keep this in 5-star condition. I'm going to have it professionally cleaned multiple times a month. I'm going to make sure that it stays in 5-star, a 5-star status, because I actually earn an income based on it being in 5-star cleanliness status. And we can use your own contract. I just have to attach a little addendum. Okay. A 1-page addendum. Guys, you have to have an addendum. Don't just use a state contract. You have to disclose what you're doing, and you need to get an addendum. Any of the coaches that you've listened to on this have contracts. Any attorney, well, not any attorney. Yeah, definitely find a good attorney to draw up an addendum for you to make sure that they are aware, that the landlord is aware of what you're doing. Okay. So that's a must have. But I'm going to say to the landlord, we can use your contract. I'm just going to attach a 1-page addendum at the end of it, so we make sure that we're on the same page. And all of a sudden the landlord's like, oh, this doesn't sound too shabby. Right. So, but either way, both to this point, it's the same pitch so far. Now, it's really important to note that, oh, this is another difference between me and Amanda. Amanda talked about how she she doesn't tell them anything until they meet in person. Y'all, I love Amanda. That is so great that that works for her, but I have to find a babysitter every time I go and meet with somebody, right? Like, I ain't got time for that. So no, I do not tell them via email, but on the phone I do. Okay. But I want to make sure that it's on the phone or it's our second contact, meaning they've expressed some sort of interest. They've either picked up the phone or they've responded to an email with, oh yes, I think we might be interested. Okay. Then I tell them. Otherwise, you are going to hear crickets. They are not going to hear past that first sentence. Okay. But you have to pitch how perfect it is for you first. Okay. Then after that, then we're going to get into the differences between these two. Okay. So now arbitrage, you're going to sign a regular year-long lease, 6-month lease, 2-year lease, whatever it is. Don't do 2-year until you've tested the property, right? And you're going to be paying a monthly rent. The landlord's not going to be able to tell a difference between you and any other tenant. Otherwise, that you are going to be there hopefully for a long time and you're going to pay on time. I recommend 5 days early because landlords love it. But you are just a regular renter, right? Where with co-hosting, that's kind of like property management, but for short-term rentals. Okay. And you make a percentage of whatever the income is on it. So with the percentage, I think I talk about this in the next. Which one is better? It totally depends on your phase of life. It depends on your location, whatever works best for you. Okay. Oh, okay. I'm going to go back real quick. Okay. So with the percentage of revenue, I've seen that anywhere from 10%. Whoa, way too low in my opinion, because that's what it takes. Usually like long-term property managers are like 8 to 12%. 10% in my opinion is way too low unless you're just handling like one part of it. But if you are a full service, you're going to communicate with all of the cleaning team. You're going to communicate with the guests. You're going to, do all of that. My sweet spot is 20 to 30%, 20 to 25% is usually what I do. But if you go out to like beach properties and you're like destination, they have to go. And if there's a hurricane coming, they have to take care of it. If they have to winterize it, if they have to do all of that, and full property management for vacation rentals is about 50%. So don't be shocked if they're like, oh, some places do 50%. I don't, because I don't winterize my properties. I don't do certain things. Okay. So, yeah, I'm in the 25% is what I recommend. Okay. Now I get asked obviously a lot like, well, how's this going with COVID? Right. So I'm going to give it to you straight, you guys. Okay. The first 48 hours, what was it? Like March 18th ish. The first 48 hours when COVID hit, I was like, oh my gosh, I did it again. It's 2017 all over. And like my calendar, so Airbnb announced that that they would allow free cancellations. We'll give you all your money back. And Airbnb hosts across the world were like, what? Like, what? I understand kind of why they did it, but Airbnb hosts around the world are also now making sure they're on other platforms. Okay. So do not just be on Airbnb in case something like this happens. Okay. With any one platform, right? Because when they announced that, all of a sudden within 48 hours, I had 95% cancellations. My calendars were empty. And I was like, oh my gosh. Oh, by the way, my husband, remember that dream life we had planned? Congratulations. We were so excited. February 28th of 2020, my husband left corporate America 2 weeks before COVID hit. And so it was like, oh my gosh, what did we do? I thought we prayed about this. Like I felt so good about my husband leaving his job to help with this business and blah, blah, blah. Like what's going on? And then I'm looking at my calendar and it's like naked. There's nothing on there. Okay. So that was the first 48 hours and it was not pretty, guys. It wasn't. Okay. Then weeks 1 and 2, it was like, okay, we're going to figure out a plan. Like we got this. Okay. And all of a sudden, because we had saved up the information from other people, we started doing mailers. Hey, do you have any other family coming to town? Are you coming to town? Here's a discount. We're offering month-long stays. We reached out to our corporate. We reached out to our traveling nurses. We reached out to all those other things. And all of a sudden we started getting people. And hallelujah, we were able to stay in the black for those months. But the first month was scary, guys. Now weeks 3 and 5, we were like, okay, we're getting them booked up. We're getting them, we're happy. We're not making a ton of money. We're not making $1,000 per property. Our goal is to net $1,000 per property per month. We weren't doing that, guys, during the first month or two of COVID. And it was really kind of a huge bummer, especially because we didn't have my husband's salary coming in anymore. But thank goodness we were still able to make money on each property. Okay. Then all of a sudden it was like the second month in COVID, and it was like, okay, all of a sudden America realized how beautiful traveling domestic is and how staycations are possible. And they're like, I just want to go someplace. My kids are virtual, so let's just go someplace for 2 weeks or a month. I've always wanted to go visit Duke campus. Like, guys, I don't live in a vacation destination, but like, I didn't address this before, but I like to look for hotels, hospitals, universities, and airports. Okay. So because I'm near those four, but that's just my recipe for my type of business model. If you are 45 minutes away from those things, but there are other things drawing there, or it's just a beautiful scenery getaway, then that's obviously a whole different part of the business model. But the ones that I practice the most and preach the most are looking for those things. Okay. So, then after that point, I was like, okay, let's do this. Like, I'm ready to open properties again. And so I had this goal of opening 5 new properties in 10 days. And you guys, it was awesome. It was awesome because people were desperate to rent out their houses. And I was like, yeah, I'll take it. Like, they didn't know what to do with it because people were like, I don't know, what's the world coming to? I was like, oh, I'll take your property. I'm on it. Okay. And the 5th one that I did was we decided, remember how we had always talked about our dream day being traveling the world? We decided to rent out our own house. Now, house hacking is a whole different division of this. Okay. House hacking, you're renting out your own home, you're bouncing from houses or just traveling on that income that you're making while you're renting out your own home. Okay. So our HOA requires you to get a 90-day renter. I was like, all right, let's go on vacation for 90 days, guys. So we did. Now, before even opening these properties, okay, I didn't even have the key yet. I strongly believe that you get the property, you say, I'll move in 2 weeks. That night, as soon as you've signed the contract, you put that property on Airbnb. Okay. So before even opening, I had $15,000 in bookings in the middle of COVID. Okay. This was month 2 of COVID. And so, yeah, and I will say that we are making more per night than we were before COVID because domestic travel has gone up so much. Okay. So like I said, I set up these 5 properties and I was like, peace out. And we took our kids and we went across the country. We did Chicago. We saw Mount Rushmore. We went and biked the Golden Gate Bridge. We went to random factories across the country and national parks all over the place. And you guys, we had this most amazing, amazing 3-month family vacation ever. I would have never been able to do that if I was flipping properties. If I had to be going to properties and making sure that my contractors were doing what they were supposed to do, projects managers were supposed to do, everything was working like that, there's no way I would have been able to do it. Okay. So that is a huge difference between flipping houses and short-term rentals. Okay. Now, how do we do it? It isn't the force, y'all. We follow the path that I talked about. Okay. Follow the systems. If you're not following a system, you will burn out. I'll be honest, you will burn out. If you're trying to clean your properties by yourself, oh goodness, you will burn out. Especially the first 2 properties, it's like, man, this is hard. By property 3, you should be automizing that sucker. And then it's just like a well-oiled machine. Okay. To open that up. Now, I will say this is not risk-free. I don't want to pretend like this is totally risk-free, but it is tried and tested and so much less leverage than rehabbing, right? So much less leveraging than rehabbing. So hopefully I'm sorry, I just rambled. I don't know if there were questions. I guess we'll do questions afterwards because I just, man, but hopefully you're starting to see the potential of Airbnb and how awesome it is and how awesome it can be. If you are interested, I have a freebie for you. It's my shopping list. of 101 things every property needs to have. Okay. And it's a clickable version, or you can print it out. It's kind of like a checklist, but you're going to get there and you're going to forget lots of things. Like, okay, I don't drink, right? I've never had alcohol. It's just not my thing, right? So for the first like 3 properties, they're like, where's your wine opener? I was like, oh, I remembered coffee. I don't drink coffee. And I'm like, oh, I remembered coffee. I was so proud of me for remembering coffee, but I didn't think about a wine opener. So there's like all those little things that when I open properties, it's like, where's this? Where's this? Where's this? Oh, here. So that you're not running back and forth to Walmart all the time, but that you have it all right there. Again, I didn't really have a chance to go into this, but my goal is once I get the keys, that I have a guest moving in 2 days later. Okay. That first day we move in furniture. Day 2 is we're getting all of the artwork and everything set up, and pictures are that afternoon, and they move in that second day. Now that's crazy house, right? That was when I did 5 and 10 days. Okay. Now, if you want to take 3 or 4 days, okay, but don't you take, I had one student come up to me and was like, I just don't understand why I'm not breaking even. I was like, well, tell me what you're doing. First off, they spent $40,000 in furnishing their house. No, heck no. Please do not spend that much money on furnishing an Airbnb. Are you kidding me? And then I said, okay, tell me more. They're like, well, it's just taking us a while to get it set up. I was like, whoa. It's not even open yet? Didn't you get the keys like 6 weeks ago? They're like, yeah, we just weren't quite ready to take pictures. Oh, goodness, no. Like, you need to be taking pictures and you need to get that thing set up for sure in 1 week. So anyways, so I went off on a rampage, but if you want a copy of the shopping list and to keep in touch, then text BNB, take a picture of this slide so you have it also to my phone number. And then there's my email address. I started like doing Instagram and stuff. So like, let's hang out and maybe you can teach me how to use Instagram. And then also Facebook. If you want to check out our podcast, it's Why Not Me Academy. We're kind of on a hiatus because while I was traveling, that was one of the things that I put to the back burner. But yeah, we'll be picking that up here next month, actually. So definitely connect. I love, like I said, you guys are kind of closer to me than family because we have a lot to talk about. So I would love for you to connect. Stacy, I've been rambling. What questions are out there? I'm going to disappear for a second just because my computer's about to die, but I can still hear. So Stacy.
Okay, I'm here. We got a couple of questions.
What do you got?
Okay, I tried Airbnb one summer, but unless you're there to watch them, you really don't know who's going to show up. How do you manage the risk when you can't truly vet the occupant?
Oh, that's a really good question. Thank goodness for Ring doorbells. Okay. Now you're not going to be able to like do a background check on everybody. You're not going to be able to do a credit check for everybody, but thank goodness for different websites that collect the money up front. Also, I'll just say that on my properties, I don't do 1-night stays anymore. They're not worth it to me anymore. So I do a minimum of 2 days. And so you'll have, that helps decrease parties, but also don't be afraid of parties. I think some people are like, oh no, you can't have anything. I love having baby showers and wedding showers. Now, don't have a rager in my house, so it says no parties. But if somebody contacts and says, hey, I'd like to have a baby shower with 8 people, is that okay? Yeah, for sure. So yes, I use Ring doorbells on any 3 bedrooms or above. But yeah, it will drain you if you're trying to actually personally meet and personally screen each guest. So you do have to be careful of that. But when you do instant book, you have 24 hours to cancel a booking if you don't feel comfortable with them for any reason. One of the things I talk about a lot in my course is how to automate it. But so I use a service that if somebody books or requests to book or books that has any negative reviews, they'll alert me. And so that I can go in and decline it if I want for any reason. Okay. Or you can also set it up that they have to have Airbnb reviews. And so then it's not like a blind lead. It's not like a blind booking.
Okay, cool. We have another one that says, do you inform the owner that you're going to be Airbnb-ing this house or your third place?
Awesome questions. I have students that haven't done that. I'm like, I told you to do it. Okay. Yes. 100%, because actually I think it's a selling point. Like it's a selling point, but they just don't, you have something to offer that they don't even know is possible. It's better than they even dreamed possible. So yes, for sure. And you have to get them to sign an addendum that they know what you're doing. And there's a bunch of different reasons for this. I don't want them to be able to cancel our contract on a month-to-month basis. I need it to be a 90-day basis because that's how far I keep my calendar open. Okay, so there's a bunch of different reasons that, yes, definitely you're going to want them to know.
Do you like what would go on the addendum?
Good question. So we talk about ours is 5 bullet points. I don't know if I can remember them all exactly. Making sure that they know, making sure that if the city ordinances or the HOA ordinances change, that you have a right to cancel your contract at any time. Let's see. Oh goodness. There's your attorney can help you with it to make sure that it covers you I just looked at one the other day. I just looked at one yesterday because we just had a
All good.
but
Post it out in
sorry.
Facebook group.
So, yes.
Post
Yes.
it out in Facebook group.
Whoever that is, ask me it through Facebook and I will send you.
Post it in our private Facebook group. You should be in there.
Oh, well, yeah. Post it there. Let's do it there.
Okay. I mean, there's another question. What's your forecast on families continuing to homeschool travel post COVID?
Sorry, my phone.
What's your forecast?
Oh, well, we actually, we just put our house back up for hopefully 90 days again. And we're hoping to do the East Coast once it opens up again, because we couldn't do East Coast before because it was really.
But do you think that there's going to be a lot of travel? I mean, essentially my personal opinion, everybody's going to be traveling and there's not enough Airbnb in the world.
I 100% agree, especially like a family like mine with 5 kids. Like, I don't want to get 2 hotel rooms and have to separate. Like, family travel has never been this big, right?
Yes.
And so it's huge, especially as the vaccines, like people are starting. Oh my gosh, my sister's at Disney World right now. And she said they had finished every ride in Magic Kingdom by 10 a.m. Every ride, because it's so empty right now. And I think people are starting to realize, oh man, like as vaccines get more popular, whatever your stance is on vaccines, like people are going to even pick up on travel. But right now, like, guys, we are booked. We are booked 90%, 85% to 90% booked, which is right where we want to be. We don't want to be more than 90%. You don't ever want to be more than 90% booked, because then you're not charging enough. Okay. That's just my personal opinion.
Yeah. That's what we say about our storage facilities too. If you're full, you're not charging enough.
Perfect. Yeah.
What about the cleaning crew? Somebody's asking about your cleaning crew and
yes.
hiring them. What are they responsible for?
Yeah. Okay. So cleaning crews are super important, because that is the main thing your reviews are going to be based on. You need to have a contract with your cleaning crew. You need to have a contract that talks about a bunch of different things. It's going to talk about how if they miss a cleaning, then they clean it for free within an hour, and then they give you the next cleaning for free, because you're going to have to pay that guest their cleaning fee back, or maybe even lose a whole booking. So you need to have a contract that lists out the penalties. Now, you might be like, well, why is the cleaning team going to want to work with me? Well, I just did a 1099 for my cleaning team. Like, I gave them a buttload of money last year, because when you have a bunch of properties and you have recurring every 2 days, 3 days, every week properties, they want that contract. And so you can also negotiate rates with them also like that. We also do a bonus system that if we don't get any negative cleaning reviews, and there's a way that you can check that, then we give them a bonus each month. So there's different, I mean, you're not going to really hire them as an employee, but treat them like an employee. Like you want that, but then also have a backup cleaning team once you get a lot of properties, so that they don't feel like, they'll just stay with me forever. We'd made that mistake, because I had the same cleaning crew that had been cleaning my house and had been cleaning our properties, our rehabs for, I had used her for 5 years. And so she was with us, and she just kind of started to get lazy. And so it was like, man. So it took me a while to find a new one to start, to have that backup, because she's like, we've been together forever. So you do have to keep a second backup. Oh, but in answer to your question, they do everything. They do my laundry. They go to Costco and buy my coffees. They go, like, they refill inventory. I pay them an extra amount to go to Costco to do the monthly inventory for each property. But yeah, I mean, I don't want to go to these properties. Like, I set it up and then I go like once or twice a year. But you're going to have a maintenance man on call. You're going to have a cleaning team on call. Those are the two people that are going to your properties.
Yeah. What about insurance?
Great question. Great question. So depending on the level of properties, okay, no matter what, you're going to need to get liability. Okay. Don't just depend on Airbnb's thing. That's great. That's wonderful. But with a big blanket policy like Airbnb, ooh, that doesn't cover everything. Okay. So you're going to make sure that you have liability coverage. For me, it's a blanket liability coverage of all of my Airbnb properties. But then in addition to that, depending on how nice, so there's different types of insurance, right? So you've got the liability if somebody slips and breaks their arm, that kind of thing. Okay. So you've got that blanket liability. And then like the actual property, well, you have to see what your landlord has, or if you own it, then you need to get a special, then you're going to get that type of covering the property for like fire damage and stuff. But then also if, oh, but if your property, like if you put really, really nice furniture in, you decide if it's worth actually covering the actual furniture and furnishings and stuff. Does that make sense?
Okay, cool. Good. Okay. We got a couple more here.
Okay.
Pets or no pets?
Oh, great question. Okay, so you got to talk about if you're doing arbitrage or, if you're working with a landlord, then you need to decide with them if they allow it. Most of our properties, we don't allow it. But the pet-friendly properties, oh my goodness, they make bank. They make bank because you can charge extra for the cleaning fees and for pet fees. And they are always booked. Always, always, always booked. Even like our COVID, even during COVID, the pet properties didn't see a decline at all. So my answer is both. It depends on if you own it or not, and if you want it to be a pet property. But you're going to like furnish it a little bit different. You're going to provide different cleaning products to make sure that they are cleaning up after their pets, and definitely collecting a pet fee for that.
Okay, cool. Okay, good. Let's see.
Oh, I saw that Amanda put about proper insurance. Proper insurance is awesome for insurance. They are a little bit more expensive than some of the other options, but they are the best. So you've got to decide.
Proper insurance. Oh, that's the name of the company.
Yeah, it's called, sorry. Yes, proper insurance and proper insurance.
Get some proper insurance from proper insurance.
Yes.
Okay, how do you deal with like complaints and stuff?
Complaints are going to come. So my parents, they actually started getting into Airbnbs also. And they, like my cute dad, he's like 75 and he was so excited. And they had just been serving as missionaries for 7 years in Africa. And they got home and they were like, what am I going to do with my life? Right. And so they started doing Airbnbs, and like they had done this. Their first one was like this cute little cottage and it was awesome. And they like put so much effort into it. And then they got like a negative review by the second person. And my dad was like, like, ouch, like this was my baby. This is my new passion. So my advice is you will get complaints. You will, it will, but just make sure that you are doing the best to be the kindest you can, because even then, don't hesitate. You should be charging enough that you're not going to hesitate to be like, I'm so sorry this happened. I really apologize. Can we send you $20, a $20 refund so you guys can go out for dinner, go grab a pizza? Or, don't be afraid to give a little bit here, or, you know what, let's refund your cleaning fee. Okay. So you should be charging enough that refunding cleaning fees is not going to kill you. Okay. So make sure that you are just being the kindest customer service agent you can. When my husband first took over the job, guys, that was the thing that needed the most training. I was like, all right, you got to stop being mean to our guests. So I hope he's not watching. No, I'm just kidding.
That's funny.
But yeah, no, you're going to get complaints. Don't be offended by the complaints. You will always get, in fact, I did a blog post once on the funniest complaints I got. Like one time it was like, there was a fly, like we got a 3-star rating because there was a fly in the house when he arrived. Are you kidding me? Like, there's just like they'll find random things to complain about. They will. But you got to do your best and make sure. I love that Amanda talked about in her talk about making sure that if you have a contract with the cleaning team like we do, then they need to be accountable for everything on a checklist. Did they wipe off the top of the fridge? Did they vacuum out inside the couch cushions? So it's like a detailed list. And if you're not going to pay your cleaning team enough to do that, then you need to have a property manager, like Amanda talked about, to go over to after each property, after each cleaning, to make sure it's in a 5-star state.
Awesome. Okay, cool. I think we got everything. Let me make sure I got you. Let me see. Add pin. Yeah. Okay. I think we got everything. I think you did a great job.
Thanks, Stacey.
For coming hang out. I wanted to point out real fast that Meilani is going to be she's doing like a monthly meeting. Talk about that for a minute.
Yes. So somebody else is doing B&Bs, so I will hop on there every once in a while. But I did the expert mindset, how to scale your business, how to make sure that you're doing the things you need to do to take your business to the next level. So we'll talk about a little bit more advanced topics instead of just, how to wholesale, how to rehab, so it'll be more experienced investors. But if you're new, also come and hop on. We're going to talk about a bunch of different random things. But yeah, I'm excited to see how it goes.
Yeah. So I think you're like you'd be the perfect coach for like a mindset though.
Yeah.
Let's do it. You're good at pushing people, I think, and getting them all riled up.
When I do keynote speaking, that's kind of my passion of what I love to talk about. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it's going to be good. Awesome. So definitely, if you want to hang out with her, then just go to the calendar and book her. I think you're on, what are you? I think once a month on Tuesday afternoons. Okay.
Yeah. Third Tuesdays.
She'll be available for y'all. Okay. Okay. Awesome.
Thanks,
all right. Well,
guys.
thank you so much. All right. It was good. Okay. Good hanging out with you. I appreciate you coming and sharing your wisdom with us. Okay.
Thanks, guys. Happy weekend.